thank you for joining me today for this conversation. I wanted to just kick it off by maybe having you introduce yourself and telling
Sure.
everyone about what you've done.
My name's Dominic Barton. I'm the chairman of Rio Tinto, which is a global mining company. I'm based in London, but have spent obviously a lot of time in Canada and many parts of the world.
And can you tell us a little bit about your perspective, having been in these global roles, what energy needs look like in the world?
You and I have talked before about places like Madagascar, the Congo, in the Amazon. There is no access to any sort of reliable power, so people burn wood, they burn the forest.
Right.
So we've got this huge energy transition going on, and then we've got the fact that a large chunk of humanity don't have access to reliable energy.
Today, how much of the world's energy is provided by fuels like coal, like oil, et cetera?
Coal is critical. If you're in China, up to 60% of the energy provided is through coal. And China has very ambitious transition plans. They want to be carbon neutral. I think it's by 2060. It's in all of our interest that transition go well, but they can't flip the switch. So this is the challenge. We're using coal in more places than people would admit,
right?
Even in Europe.
I'm glad you brought up Europe because I think Germany's burning more coal, Italy's burning more coal, and everyone's scrambling a little bit for energy. Why is it important to talk about natural gas in this context?
Natural gas, I think, is a very good fuel because it's cleaner, much, much cleaner than coal. And again, you cannot go from 1 to 0. We can't just be all coal and then we're going to be all wind. And it just doesn't work that way. China doesn't want to use coal, but it wants to have a productive economy. And going into renewables, if you just look at the amount of what they've done on solar and wind in the last while, but that, given the scale of that economy, there has to be a transition. So you need to think about these other less carbon emitting fuels that can help them with that transition.
So how does energy affordability factor into this?
We have to be thinking about the costs, and a lot of the sort of the wind and solar, which are wonderful things that we want to aim to, are not exactly the lowest cost, particularly in some of the communities and where there's a lot of people or a lot of businesses.
Gas is an important part of keeping the energy affordable. Do you see a conflict between Canada exporting more natural gas and the aims of addressing climate change?
I think Canada has a absolutely crucial role in playing in the energy transition. One is the standards that we set, the goals that we have, our commitments on wanting to move the whole global system to a lower carbon emitting energy system. And I think that we have a very important role in helping countries in other parts of the world transition in a more carbon effective and a more cost effective manner. So I actually think it's very consistent for us to increase significantly our natural gas exports, while at the same time being very committed to the goals, because it's for the earth that we need to be thinking about.
It's been talked about that if Canada exports LNG, and there are all kinds of people asking for this, our emissions will go up, global emissions will go down, but the Paris Agreement looks at national targets. And so how do we reconcile that as a country?
Imagine if we said that in food, for example, and said to Brazil, you know what, you need to produce less food because you'll meet your carbon emission targets better that way. It's terrible thinking. So I think we have to have this kind of global mindset, and we have to push, I think, for the recognition. We're doing everything we can to operate ourselves, and I think there's more Canadians can do.
Do you think the investment world is cognizant of this opportunity to reduce global emissions and how it fits in the big picture, or what's needed on that side to make these things happen?
I feel very good about the understanding on the investment side. I think our issue is, can we build it? It's the permitting. We have a very complicated process, and that's our biggest challenge. But we're going to have to figure out some way to do it, because otherwise we lose the forest for the trees.